While recovering from a workplace injury, my in-laws held a family game night and told me to sit this one out. Weak links don't play. My husband smiled apologetically. I went upstairs, pulled out a folder from under my mattress, and walked out because I got hurt 9 months ago at work. It was one of those things you never see coming, and once it happens, nothing is the same. I was supervising inventory in the loading area of the warehouse. I noticed one of the top racks didn't look right. Too heavy on one side, maybe loaded wrong. I told the new guy to stop the forklift so I could check it. As I stepped in, the whole thing came crashing down. The weight of the pallet hit my right shoulder and pinned my lower back. I passed out from the pain. When I came to, I was in the hospital. Torn rotator cuff, spinal disc injury, nerve compression in my right leg. I could barely sit up for a month. Physical therapy started slow. The doctors told me recovery would take a year, maybe longer, maybe forever. I might never be the same again. At first, Rick, my husband, was there. Sort of. He drove me to appointments, made microwave meals, and told me it'd all be okay. But I could feel the distance growing. He didn't talk to me like before. He wasn't mean. Just absent. Like I wasn't his wife anymore. Just someone in his house who needed help. The day I came home from the hospital, I sat down on our couch and saw the living room rearranged. My favorite chair was gone, replaced with some slick modern thing his sister had given him. I asked what happened to mine, and he said, it didn't fit the new look. That chair helped me sleep when my back flared up. He gave it away without asking. That's when I knew things were going to be different. His parents never liked me. They put on polite faces, invited me to brunch, smiled at holidays, but I always felt like a stranger. Rick's sister, Melanie, hated me from the start. She's one of those people who treats life like an Instagram feed, always curating the next perfect moment. She told Rick he could have married up instead of settling for someone who works with boxes. That came out one Thanksgiving when she had a few too many glasses of white wine. I thought Rick defended me. Now, I'm not so sure. Since the injury, I've been stuck in this cycle. Trying to heal, trying to stay sane, while everything I built gets taken from me. My job let me go 2 months after the accident. They said they couldn't hold the position. They used the phrase, unforeseeable hardship, like I was the one who caused it. The legal fight for workers' comp dragged on. I was approved for some basic support, but long-term compensation? Still pending. Meanwhile, Rick took over our bills. Or so I thought. I wasn't allowed near the finances. He told me not to stress, said, just focus on your recovery. I trusted him. That was my biggest mistake. The real breaking point came last weekend. Rick told me his family wanted to do a board game night. It was at his parents' house, of course. Every gathering had moved there ever since I got hurt. Their place had a big staircase. Every time we visited, I struggled. No one offered to switch locations. No one cared. That night, I asked Rick if we could host instead. Our house is single level. He gave me this half smile and said, you know how my parents are. I didn't push. I just nodded. When we got there, I could already tell they'd been drinking. Wine glasses half full, loud voices echoing from the living room. They were setting up some complicated board game, something with hundreds of pieces, like Settlers of Catan on steroids. I sat at the kitchen island, rubbing my leg, trying to stay quiet. Melanie looked at me like I was a stray dog on her porch. You gonna play? She asked. I said, if it's something I can do sitting, sure. She turned to Rick's mom and said, maybe she should just watch. Then Rick's mom looked at me, smiled sweetly, and said, weak links don't play, honey. Jeff, Melanie's husband, laughed and added, yeah, no offense. We don't want to wait 20 minutes every turn. Rick said nothing. He didn't even look at me. I stared at him. My hands were shaking. I was humiliated. These people were mocking me, and the man I married just stood there. I excused myself, said I needed to lie down, climbed the stairs, each one agony, and went to the guest room. Under the mattress was a folder I had stashed 3 weeks earlier. I didn't know if I'd ever need it, but I needed to be ready in case I did. That night, I was ready. Inside was everything I had collected since I started feeling like a guest in my own life. Rick's bank statements showing large transfers to his parents labeled repayments. But we never borrowed from them. The credit card charges to hotels and dinners. Charges that happened while I was bedridden. A second phone line I found on our Verizon bill, registered under his name. I found the burner phone in the garage. Messages between him and Melanie. They weren't sexual, but they were intimate. Too close.
Conversations about me.
How I was dragging him down. But the worst was the property paperwork. When I was in recovery, Rick told me he was refinancing to lower our monthly mortgage. I signed the papers he put in front of me. I was doped up on painkillers and just wanted to lie down. Turns out he had filed a quitclaim deed removing me from ownership. Then refinanced under his name alone. Used my injury to get hardship approval and pulled out $70,000 in equity. Money I never saw. I sat on that bed for 10 minutes, folder in my lap, listening to them laugh downstairs. I heard my name once. Laughter followed. I stood up, walked downstairs, and opened the front door. Nobody noticed. Not one person cared that I left. I drove to the extended stay in Westchester, where I had already paid for 2 weeks using cash I'd hidden. I'm not coming back. And Rick has no idea what's about to hit him. I stayed at the hotel for 2 nights without doing anything. I slept, cried a little, stared at the ceiling. It's strange how quiet things get when you finally leave. No more walking on eggshells. No more pretending not to notice the way he looks through you. Just silence. By day 3, I started making calls. First was the lawyer I'd already spoken to 6 weeks earlier, when I first suspected Rick had done something with the house.
She remembered me.
I told her I was ready to move forward. We set a meeting for the next morning. Then I called the workers' comp investigator who had left a voicemail 2 weeks ago asking for more information about my employer. I gave her everything I had. Names, dates, emails from my boss trying to pressure me into quitting instead of filing a claim. She was stunned I had kept it all. But I had. Even through pain and meds and depression, I kept records. It was the only control I had left. That night, I used a VPN and logged into Rick's cloud storage. He used the same password for everything. Inside was a folder called Old Taxes. But when I opened it, it wasn't taxes. It was photos, screenshots, PDFs. He had copies of my medical files, stuff I'd never given him permission to access. Insurance claim forms with forged signatures. There was even a letter, drafted but never sent, where he pretended to be me, asking my insurance to cancel future treatments. He was preparing to cut me off. That same folder had another document, a draft prenup, but we never signed one. This was dated 2 months after we got married. It was like he was planning to stage one in case he needed it later. He was trying to make me legally disappear. I wanted to scream, but I stayed quiet. Instead, I printed everything out and added it to the folder. On day 4, Rick started calling. First once, then twice, then 6 times in a row. His voicemail sounded worried at first. Hey babe, just checking in. Then annoyed. Are you trying to punish me? Then angry. You've made your point. Come home. I didn't answer. Not once. Later that night, Melanie texted me from a number I didn't have saved. All it said was, "Running away doesn't fix weakness." I stared at it for 5 minutes. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer. She was building my case by then. Identity fraud, financial abuse, mortgage fraud, and depending how things went, possibly more. She advised I open a separate bank account immediately, which I did. I transferred what little savings I had in a joint account, only about $800. Rick had emptied the rest over the last 2 months. I reported the unauthorized property transfer to the county clerk's office. They flagged the quitclaim as under review for fraud, which temporarily froze any sale or further refinance attempts. That's when things escalated. Rick showed up at my hotel. I was coming back from physical therapy, barely able to stand, and there he was leaning against my car. "Where the hell have you been?" he said, all fake concern. I told him to leave, that I'd already filed legal paperwork and he'd be hearing from my lawyer. He looked stunned, like I'd slapped him. "You're really doing this?" I said, "You did this the moment you signed my name and took my house." Then he snapped. "You think you're the victim? I've carried your weight for months. I needed a break. I needed a life. All you do is sleep and complain." I said nothing. He walked up to me, lowered his voice, and said, "If you go through with this, you'll be sorry. No one's going to believe you over me." That was his mistake. The hotel had outdoor cameras. They caught the whole thing. His face, his words, his body language. My lawyer got the footage the next day. I filed a restraining order the same afternoon. Within a week, Rick's accounts were being investigated. The money he'd transferred to his parents? They were being pulled in too. Turns out, the loans were fake, but the IRS didn't care. Undocumented money movement always raises flags. And Melanie? She wasn't as clean as she thought. That wellness brand she runs? My lawyer found out she never registered it properly in Ohio. No taxes filed. No permits. She'd used Rick's refinanced money to buy ad space and bulk product. That made her an accessory to financial abuse, whether she realized it or not. Now they were all nervous. Rick tried to text me one more time. Just 3 words. "Let's talk. Please." I didn't respond, because now it was my turn to make moves. A week after the restraining order went through, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. "Is this Mrs. Renner?" the voice asked. I said yes, though technically, I wasn't using that name anymore. "This is Officer Sandoval with the Westchester Police Department. We'd like to speak to you regarding a recent insurance claim filed in your name." My stomach dropped. He explained that someone had called in a claim on my car, said it had been stolen from our driveway, and later found abandoned, stripped of parts. The claim was for $8,900. Filed 2 days ago. But my car was in the hotel parking lot. Undamaged. I asked for a copy of the report. When I got it, I felt like I couldn't breathe. The signature was mine. But I never signed it. Rick had used one of our old joint insurance accounts, the one I thought I'd closed. He filed the report, forged my name, and submitted pictures of a wrecked car that wasn't even mine. Same make, same model. Different VIN. I called the fraud investigator assigned to the claim and gave her my lawyer's number. She told me, "This is the 3rd fraud alert tied to your name in 90 days. If we hadn't caught it, it could have affected your own insurance status permanently." 3rd? That's when I realized there were more layers than I even knew. I went back through my credit reports, bank statements, anything I could access. Turns out, Rick had taken out 2 store credit cards in my name in March. One at Best Buy, one at Home Depot. Racked up a combined $11,000. Every transaction was digital. Delivered to our Renner. He never bought things for the house. He sold them. Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, Craigslist. All under burner accounts. I started cross-referencing photos. The couch from our living room? Sold. The washer and dryer? Replaced with cheaper models I hadn't noticed because I'd been stuck in bed. He'd been liquidating our lives behind my back. And then something else hit me. Something I hadn't thought about since the first week I left. Our neighbor across the street, Dave, had helped Rick carry boxes to the garage around the time I went into physical therapy full-time. I thought it was just junk he was storing. I even waved at them from the window once. So I called Dave. Said I was looking into what Rick had been moving and asked what he remembered. There was a pause. Then he said, "Look, I don't want to get in the middle of your business, but your husband told me you were dying, that you had stage 4 cancer, that you were getting things in order." I sat down. The phone nearly slipped out of my hand. Rick had told people I was dying, to justify selling things, to gain sympathy, to look like they'd devoted husbands staying strong. And they believed him. Even worse, he started a private GoFundMe for her final expenses and palliative care, with his sister Melanie listed as the secondary recipient. It had raised $6,200. From neighbors, coworkers, even a few of my friends. I found the page through a cash link Dave sent me. It had already been taken down, probably when Rick realized I wasn't going to stay quiet. That was the twist I didn't see coming. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was identity theft.
Exploitation.
A full-blown scam built on my pain. I gave it all to my lawyer. She filed a civil suit and escalated the case to the local district attorney's office. But that's not where it ends. Because someone else reached out to me. Rick's ex-fiancée. Her name was Danny. She messaged me on Facebook after hearing from a mutual acquaintance that I had gone missing. I told her I was safe but couldn't say more over chat. We met in a library near the edge of town, both of us nervous and quiet. And then she told me everything. Rick had done something similar to her a decade ago. Not as extreme, but he drained her savings while they lived together, opened a credit line in her name, and vanished for 2 weeks right before their wedding. She called it off. His parents made excuses. Said he had a breakdown. She never filed charges. She just wanted to be free. But she always suspected he'd try it again, with someone else. That someone else was me. She handed me a copy of her old police report, plus the financial statements she still had. All of it could help establish a pattern of behavior. My lawyer added it to the growing pile. And now, Rick's house of cards is starting to fall. But I'm not finished. He took my health, my home, and tried to erase me. I'm going to make sure no one forgets what he did. The legal process moved faster than I expected. Maybe because the evidence was so clear, or maybe because the lawyer I hired wasn't the kind you find from a TV commercial. She was quiet, sharp, and ruthless when she needed to be. By the time fall came around, Rick was drowning. It started with the house. Since he removed me from the deed without my consent, and the bank had approved the refinance based on forged documents and false hardship claims, the transaction was declared fraudulent. That meant the mortgage agreement became invalid, and the loan had to be paid back in full immediately. Rick didn't have the money. He tried to stall, said it was all a misunderstanding. The bank didn't care. They froze his accounts, started foreclosure proceedings, and by November, he got the notice. He had 30 days to vacate. The same house he tried to steal from me? He lost it. But that wasn't even close to the end. The county sheriff's office opened a formal investigation into the insurance fraud. Between the fake car claim, forged medical authorizations, and the GoFundMe scam, Rick was facing charges that carried real prison time. Melanie wasn't safe either. Her name was on the fundraiser, and some of the money had been transferred directly into her personal account. She tried to say she didn't know it was fake, but when investigators pulled text messages between her and Rick, joking about squeezing sympathy dollars from the neighbors, she had no defense. Her lifestyle blog went quiet after that. Her wellness shop website shut down. I don't think she's been invited to any brand partnerships since. And then there was the civil lawsuit. We filed in both my name and Danny's. Since we both had proof that Rick used us financially, forged our names, and deliberately manipulated others for money, we pushed for damages. The court sided with us. Rick was ordered to pay me $94,000 in damages and legal fees. Danny got another $28,000. He cried in court, said he was broke, said he'd been under a lot of stress. The judge didn't care. You made conscious decisions over years to lie, steal, and exploit people, she said. Stress is not an excuse for fraud. After that hearing, Rick tried one more time to get to me. He cornered me in the courthouse parking lot. Security got to him before he got close, but not before he shouted, "You ruined my life." All I said was, "No, you did." That restraining order is still in place. I never went back to that hotel. I stayed long enough to find my footing, then I moved into a small apartment a few towns over, closer to my physical therapy clinic. It's not fancy, but it's mine. I sleep through the night now. Every time I sit on my new couch, the one I picked out myself, I remind myself that I earned this peace. I did nothing wrong. I was lied to, used, betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect me when I was at my weakest. But instead of breaking, I got smart. I fought back.
And I won.
As for Rick, he's renting a single room in a friend's basement now. No car.
No job.
A felony case hanging over his head and thousands in debt. The same people who once laughed with him at game night don't even return his calls anymore. Melanie moved to Florida. Quietly. Her blog now says, taking a mental health break. I hope it lasts forever. And me? I'm walking again. Not fast. Not perfect. But I walk without help. And every step I take feels like justice.